And I'm happy to be here to share some of the most fun and inspiring parts of my career, which has to do with these arts and science and humanities collaborations. And when you think about it, people have been combining arts and sciences since the beginning of our cave years. Think of the wall paintings in caves or the little fertility goddesses that people used to build out of clay. And as humans' scientific achievements and technology increased, our art changed, almost as a reflection, as a way for us to think about our place in the world. So, you got to the Metal Age where we learned how to, create metals and smelting. Well, then we got, bronze sculptures and other kinds of metals in our sculptures. If you go a little further through time, technology increases, you get to the Age of Enlightenment, where we're learning about the universe and gravity and forces of nature. Well, painters discovered how to paint 3D. Images were no longer flat. It changed the art world. So I would like to make the argument that these things are very closely allied, and we've only, in the last maybe 100 years, come to think of them as separate. I Googled art-science collaborations, and I got 1.4 million hits. I thought that was a lot of hits. Then I Googled science and the arts, 637 million hits. So there's a lot of art and science going on out there in the world. I looked up TED Talks, which are a communication forum, technology, entertainment, design. They started in 1984. By the year 2012, they had hit 2 billion watches. So there is a lot of this collaboration between these things going on. We've always been doing this art and humanities and science collaboration, and it's really the best way for us to address changes in our culture and learn to understand our place on the planet.
The art of writing science, I think, is what we're trying to do is take research data and to place it within a story that talks to both the mind and to the heart. It's this intersection of art and science. It's an education of the mind. It's an education of the heart. It's a recognition that, guess what? We're only half logical. The other half is highly emotional and illogical, as it were. Let's talk about why people don't believe science, or the science of science communication. We don't believe science because we have something called motivated reasoning. And motivated reasoning is simply our pre-existing beliefs which color all of our logic. It's that suitcase of life that we pulled in behind us. So we have confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is what we heed the evidence that supports our belief, and we have disconfirmation bias, where we debunk or refute arguments that we don't want to believe. So this motivated reasoning, I think, is based on three things. I think it's based on self-interest. Upton Sinclair had a great quote. He said, "It's impossible to make a man understand something if his salary depends on his not understanding it." It's also based on trust. Who do you trust and why? Do you trust Fox News to bring to you science? Do you trust MSNBC? Do you trust scientific journals? Who do you trust? Time Magazine? So science is always a search for truth. It's never the truth with a capital T. It's always provisional. It's always uncertain. And because of that, it makes it very easy for us at whatever time that a scientific study comes up that refutes something we believe to say, that's the moment when I'm not going to believe science. Otherwise, I'm happy to believe all science as long as it supports what I believe. The third thing is motivated reasoning is based on our social connections. And because of this incredible need to fit in, we are social beings. We have, people like us believe this. People like them believe that. This difference in who we believe ourselves to be. So we're very tribal, very, very, very tribal. And for some people, the tribe is way more important than the truth. And for the best scientists, the truth is way more important than the tribe. The bottom line is that people use scientific knowledge to reinforce their beliefs that they already have. So if we want to move the needle on climate change acceptance and action and other scientific issues, but specifically climate change in this case, start with people and then connect back to the environment. It's the inverse of how all of our science-based nature conservancy, in particular communication models, proceeded. So the bottom line is the heart and the emotion, all our values, all our ideologies, our fears, our loves, all of that stuff matters every bit as much as our logic, matters every bit as much as the science, and we need to embrace that side of us as much as the science.
So John, when you raised motivational reasoning, I found that really compelling and not something I'd thought much about. And I'm wondering that if there's possibly a misperception or even incomplete perception of it's not so much a lack of belief as it is holding on to a group identity.
A recent study I saw really talks to that very well. And I apologize if I'm using politics in here. I don't mean to do so. But this particular study talked to a group of Republicans who as a whole, don't believe, at least outwardly, in climate change. And so it was the whole group, as a group, and they asked them who believed in climate change. Nobody. Got them then privately into discussion, and 3/4 of them said, I'm really worried about it. I'm really worried about it. So it's that group dynamic. You're not going to do something that will throw you out of your group that you've been in. We're still all in high school. It's the peer group, and it can affect your job. It can affect your credibility. It can affect all kinds of things. Your promotions, if you start going against the belief system of that particular group you're hanging with. So,
are there other scientific topics besides climate change that could be connected by art and science?
Well, yes, for sure. I think lots and lots. In fact, if you look at that, if you do a Google search on science, art collaborations, you're going to find everything from genetics to, who knows what, lots of different science where artists are engaged with that. At Trout Lake, we're not just looking at climate change, we're looking at lake ecology, change over time, all sorts of things that the artist can interpret. The LTER network that's working in ecological systems around the country has research sites that are everything from the tundra to coral reefs to Antarctica, where there's art being done along with that science. And some of it is on climate change, but also on other topics. So I think, the sky's the limit. And I think artists are really looking for exciting, interesting things to focus their work on. And I think scientists are actually pretty open to getting communication tools, even if they just put a piece of art in a PowerPoint that's largely technical. It gives them something to help connect to the audience.